Thank you for joining me this month. Welcome to our teaching content that is put out because of your support as patrons of the show and of the community. This month we're talking about consistency when spinning across many different types of comb top, and I thought that I would use my final spin that I did for the breed and color studies as our example this month. I hope you enjoy. So regardless of what you're spinning and what you're spinning on and what your project is, when you start your sampling process, you need to figure out what you're spinning for, what you want the weight of your yarn to be, and how much twist you want. Last month, I published a document that helped you to start to navigate how to navigate some of that. So I encourage you to go back to February's teaching content, and you can find that at patreon.com/WilfredPearls. This month, we're going to take some of that and put that into practice. So you have already figured out what you want to spin, you figured out the weight, you figured out the twist, you figured out how many treadles, what your twist per inch are going to be, all that kind of stuff. Your sampling is done. Now it's a matter of spinning from all those different pieces of comb top, and even if they're stripped differently or there's different widths and amounts of fiber, you want to be consistent in the yarn and how much you're spinning of each. The biggest thing is your drafting distance. So how far is your distance of draft? We started off this video looking at my hands quite closely from one angle, and now we're going to look at my hands from a slightly different angle. I want you to notice that as my front hand drafts forward and pulls that fiber forward, that every single time I go back into my fiber supply, I'm drawing the same distance. And that drafting triangle from my drafting hand back to where my fiber supply hand is holding, and that twist, that access point where my fiber is becoming yarn, needs to be consistent. Regardless of the amount of fiber that you're holding in your fiber supply hand, you need to have that length that you're drafting forward if you're doing a short forward draft, or the length that you're drafting back if you're drafting a short backward draft, needs to be exactly the same. You can create this by having some tape on your lap that's whatever the length is that you're trying to create, that helps you to be consistent, so you can draft your hands between that piece of tape every single time. Or maybe you find using a measuring tape and checking yourself every so often to be helpful. But every time you draft back, you want to grab roughly the same number of fibers and draft the same distance forward and smooth back, same number of fibers forward and smooth back. The further into your fiber supply you're going to go, and the further you reach in to grab and your distance becomes inconsistent, that's when your consistency between your yarns is going to start to be in jeopardy. You're going to have thicker and thinner yarns and thicker and thinner space spots because your distance of draft is off. So note that my finger and thumb, where I'm pinching that place that fiber becomes yarn, is exactly the same every single time. I'm moving back and forth about an inch, not even, probably about half an inch, because the staple length of the fin is quite short. So I'm back and forth, and look how many fibers I'm drawing every time. Roughly the same number. This takes a lot of practice, and I encourage you to have this video playing in the background while you work on your own stuff to remind yourself of how to remain consistent. And like I said, it takes a lot of practice. So try to draft forward and back as consistently as possible. And I would encourage you not to flip back and forth between short forward and short backward. I would encourage you to pick one, master it, and then practice the other one. I hope that's helpful, and I will chat with you guys next month. Happy spinning.